Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, everybody, on this lovely Sunday here as we are now counting down the days of August. Before you know it, I mean, in some parts of the country, there have been kids back to school for like weeks. Mine go back a week from now in a couple of days, but it's just incredible. Fastest summer ever. Thanks so much for making this show part of your Sunday morning. So Tish James, boy, she's in a lot of trouble. Karma is coming. And it couldn't come to a more worthy person than the AG of New York, where, again, this person, the fact that she brought a case against Donald Trump and we had a corrupt judge that ruled with her every step of the way, as far as saying that Donald Trump overvalued Mar-a-Lago to get better loans, and it's really only worth $18 million. Trust me. I was there New Year's Eve at the invitation of the president. My wife and I went down, obviously wanted to talk to him a little bit more about my book, The Greatest Comeback Ever Inside Trump's Big Beautiful Campaign. Still on sale now, maybe great for some fall reading or an early Christmas gift. So go out and get the book. It is a New York Times bestseller, and the reviews have been stellar. So thanks for all the feedback there, guys. But yeah, we went down to Mar-a-Lago, and I'm telling you, the tennis court is worth $18 million. I mean, there is no way, let's put it this way, I'm not a real estate agent in any way, shape, or form. But here's what I do know. If I have a 58-bedroom palace on the water in Palm Beach, Florida, you think that's only worth $18 million? Because go on to Realtor.com sometime, and you will see, put in like 2-bedroom homes, like, apartments are worth like $20 million. It's crazy. So 58 bedrooms. And by the way, a property owned by the President of the United States. If Donald Trump were to put this up for sale, I guarantee you it would fetch at least $1 billion. Yet, Tish James bought this case, and obviously in New York, and Judge Engeron, who is as corrupt as it comes and probably should be disbarred, they ruled that Trump actually lied in this situation in order to get better loans. And now, thankfully, there is the New York Appeals Court. And we've been waiting for this for some time now. And a lot of legal experts, like the great Jonathan Turley of Fox News, said that once this gets to appeals, then this thing's going to be overturned. And sure enough, Jonathan, as usual, was right. And now Trump doesn't have to pay something like $500 million in fines. It's crazy. And now Tish James, ironically enough, lied on her loan application. Sounds familiar. The same thing that she said that Trump did, in saying that her dad was actually her husband. Because I guess if you're a married couple, you have a better chance of getting more favorable loans. And that's like evidence. That's proof. Like, it's there. This isn't he said, she said. Literally, the loan application says that. And among other things as well, as far as what she did. So she is screwed. And I pray, if all the people that we've talked about as far as like who should be held accountable for weaponizing the justice system, she is number one on the list, gold medal winner, no question about it. But here she is, just 1 year ago, bragging about how she's going to get that check from Trump and how he's going to have to pay up. And she does it with the most condescending, pious smile on her face. I wish you could see it, but you're going to have to listen to it. This is cut one. Go.
But I will come back before you soon with a check for $250 million. And to let you know that he is no longer allowed to do business in the state of New York. Yeah, we've got a special charge to show up and stand up for one another.
Stand up for one another. This is somebody who has let New York go to you-know-what under her watch while she pursued Trump. And remember, she ran on it. She said, even before she was elected, even before listing any sort of specific charge, that if you elect me, I will take down Donald Trump. And sure enough, she tried it. And now, well, she's not getting that check for $250 million. That would have been the first of two payments. She's not getting any money, and she's probably, hopefully, going to go to jail. Wouldn't that be nice? Meanwhile, speaking of like past clips, because I love this, because Gavin Newsom, I saw 2 polls out recently that show that he is the leader for the Democratic nomination. Not by much. Like he's getting like 18% to Pete Buttigieg, and you got to say edge twice. Pete Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg, getting like 12%. AOC getting like 10%. But Gavin Newsom right now, because of name recognition, I suppose, and the gel and the nice smile, I guess that he, because he's out there so much, is for now leading. And, well, we'll see if that holds up. But here he is back in 2011 talking about if he is elected governor of California, he's going to bring jobs back to the Golden State. Problem is, ever since he's become governor, California now has the highest unemployment rate in the country. People are leaving California more than any other state in the country for Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Arizona, so on. So great job, and I guarantee you, once you really peel off the onion of Gavin Newsom and you get past the sizzle, the steak, it ain't good. It's rancid, highest homeless rate in the country, as I said, highest unemployment rate in the country, highest taxes in the country. You want to vote for that, America? I don't think so. This is Joe Concha. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Tower Show. Ned Ryan, John Solomon, my guests coming up next.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
Class is now in session, and the UPS Store is here to help you ace arriving on campus. Our certified packing experts can pack everything you need, from desktops to decor. Plus, when you pack and ship with us, you get our exclusive pack and ship guarantee. Your items arrive safe or your money back. Restrictions and limitations apply. To get a 20% off packing coupon and for full details, visit the upsstore.com/packing.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, let's bring in our next guest. He is Ned Ryan, of course. Ned, promote anything you want. I'll give you the floor.
Wow, it's very rare that I get this opportunity, Joe. What should we discuss? Let's discuss the New York Times wailing and bemoaning the political reality of what Dems are confronting in regards to their voter registration numbers absolutely imploding on them, as Republicans have gained about 2 million. It's about a 4.5 million switch since 2020 in regards to Republicans gaining on Democrats. I think there's a lot to discuss, Joe, but that's the one that stuck out to me just in the last couple of days where, you know, Democrats have been crowing about what they're going to do if they take the House back in the midterms. But between their woes on the voter registration front and quite frankly, Republicans appearing to finally find a backbone in regards to redistricting before 2026, I think that's going to be a lot harder road for Democrats than they thought even a month or two ago.
Why do you think Democrats are imploding the way they are? I mean, there's so many options here to go from, but what do you think mostly is driving this?
Well, I mean, first of all, go back to November 5th, 2024, right? The recent elections. I viewed it as a referendum on really the crazy woke DEI, CRT, transgenderism, all this crazy worldview of the left, and it was a referendum on that, and people firmly rejected it. And I think what happened is now that the crazy left, though, has captured the Democratic Party, I view the Democratic Party as synonymous with the far Marxist woke left. I think that the American people have just said, you have no answers for us. You have no real solutions for anything, whether it's the economy, whether it's immigration, whether it's rule of law, whether it's dealing with crime, none of these things. And you want to lecture us and basically try and conform us to your crazy worldview. And I think the American people are reacting to that, not only because they find it abhorrent, it's just there are no real solutions coming from the Democrats right now in regards to how do you make the lives of the American people better. And I think you're seeing that in some of these dynamics in regards to registration numbers.
And that's the thing. We're talking to Ned Ryan. As far as redistricting, you brought that up before. Texas, obviously, they could end up adding something like, 8 seats? It was 5?
I think they're going for 5. They're going for 5.
5 now, but I think even Governor Abbott said that they could even expand that if California is doing what it's doing. But the way I see this playing out, and I think it's pretty logical, is that, okay, Texas is going to add seats that favor Republicans, and you add 5 Republican seats. And then California, which Gavin Newsom says he's going to redistrict, but I don't see what's left to redistrict. There's literally almost no Republican representation, but he's going to try to counter there. And then you're going to see another counter in Indiana or Florida, and then you'll probably see something in some other blue state. But in the end, there are more red states than blue states. So if this ends up being a redistricting war, I have a feeling that Republicans are going to end up adding more seats than Democrats are able to do.
Well, so there's Texas, there's Florida, there's Ohio, there's Indiana, there's Missouri. I think Kansas, my home state, is going to jump into the fray.
Wow.
So you're looking at all these. I was doing the math yesterday with some folks. I happened to be at the White House, was having some conversations. We're looking at probably 15 seats, and that's, I think, conservative. So the problem then, 15 Republican seats before 2026, just to be clear. I think the problem that Gavin Newsom has in reality is, first of all, it has to go in front of a referendum, which is in 74 days, has to pass, and it has to basically overturn the law and the Constitution of the state, which says districts must be redrawn by an independent commission. So he's got to pass this referendum, and then we get to what you pointed out. How much juice can you really squeeze out of these blue states that have already been heavily gerrymandered? We haven't gotten to the 8 blue states that have precisely 0 Republican seats. So Democrats have been doing this to us for decades, and it's about time Republicans woke up and said, hey, we could actually do this in return. And I'm happy to see this happen, and I do not think that when it's all said and done, I have a hard time believing that we're not going to walk away with at least 10, if not 15 seat advantage before 26.
Wow, and that can make the difference, really, when you think
Total
about it.
difference.
Democrats, they have to flip, 4 seats in order for us to have House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries and then Donald Trump being impeached for things that it doesn't matter what it's for. They'll just find a way to try to impeach him, which impeachment, of course, does not lead to removal because you would still need 2/3 of the Senate to vote on that, and that's just not going to happen on any planet. But at the same time, it will be a distraction. Trump's agenda will be halted. There's a lot at stake. So if they could add 10 seats, that may be enough to keep Speaker Johnson in his position. We're talking to Ned Ryan. We talked about Gavin Newsom before as far as redistricting. Overall, his favorability, in other words, maybe in blue states and on social media, he's playing well, I suppose. But according to Gallup, Ned, his favorability is only at 30% nationally. Yet you see him leading in some polls for the Democratic nomination over AOC or Pete Buttigieg. I mean, this isn't the 27 Yankees we're talking about, but is he the guy right now you think Democrats will kind of pin their hopes to? Because, well, the gel looks good and the teeth are nice and he's provocative and says a lot of nice things, but his record's horrific.
Well, I will say this. First of all, the reason that you see him leading in these early polls, name ID. It's just all about name ID. He's been out there a lot. He's obviously governor of one of the largest states in the country. So it's name ID. He's getting out there. He's trying to push, his notoriety. But he's still only at 30%. And the thing, Joe, is I don't think, even though a lot of us know that California is a disaster, there has not been the full deep oppo dive and real, let's talk about Newsom's record in California. So I think he's at the high tide mark for his popularity.
Yeah.
I think once people really start to hammer him on the disaster that California has been, I think you're going to see him fade pretty rapidly. I'm not sure we're actually even mentioning or discussing who will be the nominee in 28 for Democrats. I don't know that I have any firm answers, but I just look at this usual, list of suspects and go, if this is all they've got, man, they might be even more trouble than I thought.
Yeah, and the thing is about when we predict these things, and I'm guilty of it more than anybody,
Right.
I remember 2007, and the front runners for the Republican and Democratic nominations were Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton.
Right.
That didn't work out, right?
Exactly.
And then 2016, if you look back to 2015 before Donald Trump jumped in, it was Jeb's race to lose, right? Or maybe Ted Cruz. That didn't work out. So I could go through the list as far as when you predict these things too early, it almost never works out. But on the Republican side, I can't get past the fact that I think right now, I would put money on it if I could. J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio,
Yes.
that's your ticket right now, Ned.
It is. No, I firmly agree with that. I would put money on that as well, Joe. I think the midterms are going to be a test for JD in regards to the fact that he is the finance chair for the RNC, right? So he is very instrumental in raising the money necessary for Trump to keep the House. I feel good about the Senate. The House is going to be a dogfight, even if we get seats in redistricting. If he comes out of the 26 midterms having successfully helped Republicans keep the House, I see no way that he cannot be the nominee in 28, and I think Rubio's his VP, and that is an amazing ticket. If you think about JD and Marco Rubio as our nominee ticket in 28 versus whatever, quite frankly, clown show Democrats come up with, and then you build in all of these other structural things that I was talking about in regards to voter registration, but I'm pretty optimistic about where we're headed, not only for the midterms, but 28 as well.
And we're talking to Ned Ryan. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Vice presidents normally have the inside track to be the nominee.
Right.
Nixon was, obviously, after Eisenhower and Mondale,
Right.
after Carter, and George H.W. Bush after Reagan, and Gore after Clinton. And some have said, well, maybe Marco doesn't want to be number two. But he's still a young guy, relatively, right?
He is.
He's in his mid-50s, so even if he had to wait 8 years, well, that's still a lot younger than the last two presidents we've had. So there you go. Do you think an AOC really has a shot to win the Democratic nomination, given that all the energy is behind the socialist wing of the Democratic Party right now?
I think that's one of the dynamics that has to be discussed, in which I think the Democrat Party, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of in this black hole vortex of the far left Marxist socialists. And obviously that doesn't resonate with the greater population in the country. So the dynamic being, how does somebody successfully navigate a primary dominated by the far left Marxist socialists and yet somehow pivot into the more general election? Do they make the mistake of putting up a Marxist socialist as their candidate, or does somebody navigate that and then try and pivot out of it into the general? It's a very, very hard needle they're going to have to try and thread, and I'm not sure they can pull it off, because I think the far left is going to demand in that primary an adherence to their crazy far leftist Marxist ideology, and I'm not sure you can come back from that in, 60, 90 days before the general election. So I think Democrats, when you start to look through the reality of what they're up against, they have boxed themselves into a corner of their own making, of their own choosing, that I think is going to be very difficult for them to get out. And we haven't even, Joe, talked about the 2030 census. If we actually do that correctly, I mean, I'm all for sending this crazy far left party into the political wilderness for a generation or two, because we could be getting maybe 25, 30, even 40 seats in the 2030 census if you do not have corrupted numbers. And that's House seats, electoral votes, and massive amounts of federal grant money being apportioned off correct numbers in 2030 if we can pull it off.
That's the thing, right? I mean, you're going to see losses of electoral votes out of California and Illinois and New York.
Yep.
and Florida and Texas and probably Tennessee or South Carolina, they're going to add more because that's where the population's going because the blue states are run so poorly. That will be the ultimate accountability for their policies in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. And they're telling me we got to go, Ned. So thanks so much for joining us on short notice. We appreciate it and enjoy your, I can't believe I'm saying this, Labor Day weekend that's coming up in 1 week. Incredible.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, thank you, Ned. And we'll be back with more on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Tower show in just a moment, including the great John Solomon joins us next.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 50% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, let's bring in our next VIP guest. He is John Solomon. Follow him at J. Solomon Reports on X. John, of course, is a Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist and the founder of Just the News. Johnny, how are you?
I am well. Good to be with you, Joe.
Congrats on your Brewers, who are, I think, going to win 155 games this year.
It's amazing thing to watch, isn't it? Wow.
It's insane.
What a run. What a run.
And no one saw it coming. I mean, you don't think Brewers and World Series, but right now they look like the favorites, but we could talk about baseball all day. I do want to talk about this big story you have on justthenews.com about the House Education and Workforce Committee has opened an investigation into alleged anti-Semitism at the National Education Association. That's the largest teachers union in the U.S. What's going on there?
Well, they had an event a couple of months ago where several teachers who attended said, several Jewish teachers said when they attended, they felt they were treated hostilely, name-called, protested, an agenda that seemed to suggest that Jews were somehow to blame for the world's problems. And so they raised some concerns, and now Congress itself is beginning to dig in and find out whether that is a hostile environment. There are some people in Congress that want to revoke the nationwide union charter for NEA, which would be a big threat to that teachers union, which is one of the most reliable Democratic constituencies. They're a big donor, big political activist on the left, and, of course, a big organizer of the left's agenda in the education school system. So this is a big moment. The hearings will create a factual basis to see if there is an anti-Semitism problem inside of the union. Union will get its chance to make its case. And then I think Congress will make a decision whether it wants to go or try to force the Labor Department to revoke the charter of this teacher schools union based on whatever they find. So it'll be interesting. This is a high stakes fight. It isn't just a dead of summer hearing. There is much bigger stakes for both sides on how this hearing turns out.
It'll be interesting to see how the media covers this. Actually, it won't be interesting. It'll be predictable. I'm sure, John, we'll see the CNNs and the MS, whatever they are now, MS Nows of the world, New York Times, Washington Post, probably defending the union to the hilt, while those who are objective, sane, and sober will try to treat this hearing for the importance that it brings, and that is that anti-Semitism has no place in our education system yet, and we need to obviously get to the bottom of this, and it's good to see accountability is back. Overall, we're now 8 months into this administration, which is remarkable. It feels like 8 years, but so much has happened. If you were to look at the biggest successes and failures, if you could find them, I suppose, with the Trump administration, what would they be if you were to list like gold, silver, and bronze right now as far as successes are concerned?
Well, listen, I think at the gold level, the velocity of change that they've been able to create, things are happening at a breakneck speed, and government is being reshaped in ways big and small. This is a little tidbit that I don't think got the proper attention because it is so significant. But earlier this week, the administration filed a notice in the Federal Register giving its projections for the size of the federal workforce. 300,000 jobs will have been eliminated from the federal workforce by the end of the year, according to this filing. That's a 16% reduction, the largest reduction of the federal workforce in the history of the country. And by the way, at a moment when we're trying to find significant savings with $2 trillion a year in deficit. So a big one there. You see downstream in Tulsi Gabbard shrinking down the D&I, which ballooned up over the last few years. It was originally a couple hundred staffers. It got to 2,000. It's going to come back down to about 700-800 when they're done, a 40% reduction there. So government's being reshaped. Lee Zeldin is reshaping the regulatory powers in a big way. The Green New Agenda is dead. It has been destroyed at every level. And the president's powers to make these sort of changes, both economically or fiscally and policy-wise, have been reaffirmed by the courts day in and day out. Yesterday, another big win in the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court said Donald Trump is free to get rid of $800 million of NIH research that he thinks is too DEI-oriented, too far left oriented. It's in the power and prowess of the president. He's won many powers like that, and what he's done is given not only himself but future presidents the power to shrink government and to make agenda changes inside the confines of what Congress appropriates. And I think that is, from a long-term perspective, large change. In the short-term perspective, silver, easy, low-hanging fruit. He did it quickly. Probably really consequential to everyday people, is fixing the border. It wasn't rocket science. He just had to enforce the law, put people back on the border, but he did it quick. And I think now he's beginning to help the American public in the bronze category understand the dangers of weaponization. It isn't just a Fox News story anymore. Everyday Americans are starting to see, all right, wait a second. Federal officials were leaking classified information. They were going after people who were innocent. They made up fake intelligence reports. And I think over the last couple of months, a story that mostly was in conservative circles now is beginning to break out into the center of America, and that is that we had abuses in government that looked something like Richard Nixon, and maybe there needs to be some accountability, some firing, maybe some prosecutions. And so in the bronze category, I think the beginning of building public sentiment towards supporting punishment is probably another accomplishment that hasn't been fully shouted out yet.
And we're talking to John Solomon. He is the founder of justthenews.com. So going into the 2026 midterms, and I get it, they're still 14 months away. What do you see as a liability as far as what Trump needs to accomplish in order to hold the House, particularly because, well, if Democrats take back the House, and it won't take a lot, right? They have to flip something like 4 seats. Right. Then you have House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, and we have impeachment hearings in perpetuity.
That's right. That's all there'll be. Listen, I think there are two elements. One is the big gambit he's made on tariffs, which has brought in some early big revenues, bigger than expected. It hasn't yet generated a significant amount of inflation. If he can keep inflation in check, and the economy can keep creating signs that it is starting roaring back to life, that people have a little bit more money to spend because gas is a little bit cheaper or electric bills are going to be a little bit cheaper, he'll do well. If inflation keeps persistent or grows and it can be blamed on his tariffs, he's going to have a pocketbook issue that's going to be a liability for him going into the 26 election. They're acutely aware of it. And I think that the early signs are they've been able to overachieve. And I think even economists who were deeply against the tariffs are saying, maybe they weren't as bad as I thought. Maybe there's going to be something good out of it. But it's not out of the woods yet. It's not out of the forest. And so I think that is the big issue. And then I think in addition to that, it's important in the 26 election that they have good candidates. They don't forget the successes. Republicans don't forget the successes they had in getting out the early vote for the first time. In 6 elections, they lost the early vote every time. In the last election, they were head-to-head and even-handed with Democrats in generating a vote early in the battleground states. About 4.2 million people voted early who had never voted early for Republicans. But do they forget that and go into 26 and don't do that? That's a liability. And I think third is the messaging around what is certainly going to be a round of accountability from all of the scandals from Russia collusion all the way up to the raid on Mar-a-Lago and the Jack Smith prosecutions. It is important that the president not allow that to be looked like retribution, that he builds the case that we're not retributing. We're punishing people to create a deterrent for future presidents. My retribution was I won the election. I won. That's the ultimate. I drove the Democrats nuts. This is not about retribution. This is about really punishing people who abuse their system and making sure people in the future aren't tempted to do that. He can't let the Democrats have the victimology of retribution. And so, because there's going to be prosecutions, there's going to be some activity, like you saw in the last 24 hours of the raid of John Bolton's house. And the first, coverage will be, is this a retribution against a critic or is it a legitimate case? I think how they control that narrative and how they build that narrative will be important to make sure it doesn't become a boomerang against Republicans and Trump in the 26th election.
Yeah, we're talking to John Solomon. That's the thing. As far as accountability with Russiagate, for example, which Just the News has been all over, and rightly so, do you think ultimately there will be accountability when it comes to Comey or John Brennan, former head of the CIA? Obviously, Comey was head of the FBI. Obviously, we also have James Clapper, who was head of the DNI. It just seems like the evidence that Tulsi Gabbard, the current head of the DNI, is overwhelming, what she's putting out there. It's not just accusations without anything behind them like we heard so often with Trump and Russia, but there's some real teeth there. But it seems like whenever these things happen, right, for instance, like when all that evidence was there against Joe Biden, against Hunter Biden, as far as those shell companies and all those millions going to the Biden family, it seemed like that was a slam dunk and then nothing happened. So are we in nothing happened ultimately territory? You think there's some real teeth here where we actually can see some accountability?
Listen, the evidence has always been there. And the key was, would the evidence be treated fairly by the everyday FBI agents and prosecutors who control the machinery of government and the court system? And what we learned with Hunter Biden was, until I could expose, and I broke the first set of stories on the IRS whistleblowers, until people knew the IRS whistleblowers had a legitimate case, but it was being suppressed, Hunter Biden was going to get a skate. And then, of course, he ended up with 2 federal indictments and 2 federal convictions. Now, in fairness, his father pardoned him and got him off the hook again. But the American public went from thinking that Hunter Biden's story was either a Russian piece of misinformation or just a political witch hunt against Joe Biden, to realizing, hey, the guy cheated on his taxes and other things, and that turned. It turned because federal agents who had real evidence and facts were finally allowed to do their job, but it didn't turn without a lot of drama. And the moment when those whistleblowers came forward was one of the seminal moments in the last 4 or 5 years. When you go back now and you look at all the things that I've been reporting over the last 4 to 5 months, you have overwhelming proof from Tulsi Gabbard that an intelligence assessment was hijacked and fake or bad intelligence used to make it come to a political conclusion that the career people didn't want. Career people did not believe Putin tried to favor Trump over Clinton in the election, but Joe Biden, Barack Obama, James Comey ended up hijacking a process and turning it into it's a Donald Trump problem. And then I think similarly, you now see in the stories like I broke just in the last 24 hours with James Comey, the Trump Justice Department in 2019 had overwhelming evidence that James Comey likely authorized illegal classified leaks to the media, to the New York Times specifically. And the evidence was his own deputies admitting it. They told me to do it. I did it. The instruction came from him. And so you'd have the chief of staff and the chief counsel to James Comey potentially testifying against Comey and accusing him of an illegal classified leak. The Trump Justice Department gave Comey a pass. Now, the statute is 10 years. A lot of evidence wasn't even gathered during that time frame, like emails that the FBI wanted to show just how bad this leaking was. Does Pam Bondi, does Kash Patel, do the career agents go get that and make a case now before the statute does? And how will the American public look when the former top 2 deputies to James Comey say, he told me to leak? If that were to be the case, the public might look at that as a factual, hey, I don't like leakers like that. That risks our national security. So a lot has to play out in order for those things to happen. The real question is who's in charge of the daily bureaucracy in the FBI and the Justice Department and other places where these decisions are made or broken. In the last 10 years, they were broken. They were blocked. And
we're talking to John Solomon at J. Solomon Reports on X. John, we only got about a minute left. And that's the thing about Comey. He admitted under oath during those hearings that were watched by something like 25 million people way back when to leaking to the New York Times information about Donald Trump, and he was openly proud of it, like he was doing a public service. Nobody likes James Comey. I mean, Democrats don't like him because they felt that he hurt Hillary Clinton right before the 2016 election. Republicans, obviously, for the reasons that you just listed, don't trust him in any way, shape, or form. Yet he's talking about how he went to a Taylor Swift concert and heard a song about being mean and then equated that to Donald Trump. Do you think there's something, I'm saying this almost jokingly, but maybe I'm not. Yeah. Is there something a little mentally wrong with James Comey where he's talking about going to Taylor Swift concerts at age 64?
Yeah, listen, it was funny. Some of the agents who worked for him and chafed working for him were joking with me the other day when I talked to them saying, maybe he's trying to create an insanity defense for himself. So maybe that's what the thing is. Listen, he went under oath. He actually said that he never leaked. He never was an anonymous source, but his own staffers now have acknowledged in federal interviews that there were leaks and that he authorized them or that they facilitated it for him. That is a big piece of evidence that has to be reconciled. How do you reconcile his testimony with the evidence that's now there? And does he get indicted for lying? Does he get indicted for leaking? These are big moments ahead. I think James Comey will be one of the most important figures in history in how the future of the FBI is governed. Will we have an FBI that people trust 20 years from now? In that case, probably James Comey has faced some repercussion beyond what he has. If we don't have an FBI that people trust, it may be because the era of abuses in the FBI went generally unpolished. That's the stakes, and we'll see where it plays out. The next few months, we're going to get a good sense of where this history is headed.
It will be an interesting autumn, no question about it. John, they tell me we got to go, but thanks so much again. Really appreciate you joining us. Yeah, enjoy. I guess Labor Day is coming up soon. Boy, that was a fast summer. Thanks so much for coming.
See you. Good to be with you, my friend.
All right, John. And we'll be back to wrap this puppy up on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show in just a moment.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everyone. So, if it's Sunday, probably you're going to hear from Jasmine Crockett. Actually, that's any day ending with the letter Y, because this representative from Texas, Democrat, is all over cable news. Because she says crazy things, and CNN, MSN, whatever they are, MS Now, they like booking her a lot because I guess that the soundbite they figure goes viral and therefore it helps their ratings. No, not quite. Putting on discredited, insane people, like certifiably insane people. You would think there'd be some integrity at these networks not to give this person a platform, but sure enough, here we are. So let's play cut 2 because this is Jasmine Crockett being Jasmine Crockett, and I'll have my analysis on the other side. Cut 2, go.
ICE, for the most part, is nothing but a ride. That's all they were supposed to do for the most part, right? It's like, you know what? This person is undocumented, or this person re-enters the country illegally, all the things, and then they have an ICE hold. And then ICE gets them so they can then send them out. That's all ICE is supposed to do. Look at them as a fancy Uber driver for immigrants. That's all they're supposed to do. And now they're running into places and doing raids, and they're falling all over each other, injuring each other. Like, we are a joke, but it is a bad nightmare of a joke. And so I don't think that this president has any limits that he won't go to.
There are 9-year-olds that are more articulate than Jasmine Crockett. What is she talking about? Fancy Uber drivers? ICE is injuring each other? This is insane stuff. ICE is doing a tremendous job. She should be thanking them for cleaning up her state of Texas in terms of all the millions of people who've crossed into this country illegally through Texas and therefore are exhausting social services, including health care, including education, if they're not actual terrorists, where the FBI terror watch list has said that thousands of terrorists have entered this country illegally under Joe Biden. So again, just if you're a supporter of President Trump, we'll put it this way, you want Jasmine Crockett on a podcast like she was just on, Gavin Newsom's that was. You need her on that podcast, to quote Colonel Jessup from A Few Good Men. The more America sees and hears from her, the better it is for the GOP. She is like the chat GPT version of, if you combine the DNA of Joy Reid meets Joy Behar meets, I don't know, Kathy Bates in Misery, that's basically Jasmine Crockett. And if Crockett or AOC or Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Zoran Mandani, if they're the faces of the Democratic Party, they are royally screwed. Because what works in Boston or New York or any deep blue district does not translate nationally in those key purple states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia. Americans largely reject socialism. Younger, educated, white voters, maybe not so much because they like free stuff, I guess, and they don't really think about, hey, how's this going to get paid for? But fine, for the most part, Americans reject socialism. They also, outside of those rabid partisans on the left, reject insanity. That's Jasmine Crockett, who keeps getting rewarded by legacy media for saying the most insane things, yet she's on like 5-6 times a day. She's all over social media. She's basically the new AOC. Crockett's taken her mantle as far as being like young, I guess, provocative person who says a lot of things that gets her on TV, and AOC is kind of in the background now at this point. So, and that's a good thing for AOC, by the way, because the more we hear from her, let's put it this way, there are limits to genius while there are no limits to stupidity, and that's basically AOC. But at the same time, I'm sure she's a little jealous of Jasmine now at this point. So, look, the bottom line is that if Zoran Mamdani wins in New York, and he will, as it stands right now. I mean, Eric Adams is polling a very distant fourth. Why he stays in this race, I have no idea. And you hope that Andrew Cuomo puts his ego aside, too, and you make it a binary choice between our Curtis Sliwa and Mamdani, and then I think Sliwa has a real shot. But until one or two of those guys get out, he's your next mayor. And if he is the face of the Democratic Party as the mayor of the largest, most complex, used to be greatest city in the country, well, that is a walking, talking ad for the GOP going into the 2026 elections. That we do know. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks so much to Ned Ryan and John Solomon as my guests, and thanks to Rich behind the glass. We will be back next Sunday, Labor Day weekend already. Where did the time go for the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show? I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Show. You can hear Judge Janine's Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Show Sunday mornings at 10. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?